All right, welcome to the show. Closers or Losers here with my co-host, Matt Ryder. We took the last couple of weeks off, just busy doing events and crazy virtual events and stuff like that. And we are back. So Matt, how is the Sydney office? Looks pretty cold there in Sydney.
It's good though. It looks like a really positive note. We're coming out of lockdown. Okay. Everything's starting to normalize. Politicians seem to have their heads screwed on.
Politicians somehow got smart and realized that the virus was not going to be eradicated. It might take 50 years.
Looks like November, December, we're going to be able to fly out of this country. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Hey, that's awesome. I know you guys are coming over to the Scottsdale, Arizona office. So I'm excited to see you guys. And I can't wait to go over there. When can I go and see our office in Sydney that I haven't seen since we've had it 18 months?
I think you'll be able to come in as of like December, but you'll have to quarantine.
Oh, I have to quarantine?
For 2 weeks. It's been
2 weeks? Oh my gosh. Okay. Maybe I'll come over there in about another year then. No quarantine coming over here. You don't have to stay in a hotel for 3 months, before you're safe there. Okay. All right. So, hey, we had an awesome event. I wanted to talk a little bit about the event that we had. We had a virtual event. I'm excited, when these big live events come back, and they're already starting to come back. We won, Matt and I, our company 7th Level, won the 2XX award with ClickFunnels. It's a software, if you're not familiar, that helps you build like sales funnels and marketing. And to win that award, you have to be doing over like $10 million a year in sales, which we, have crushed that in the last year. So that's been awesome. So they're having a big event in Orlando, Florida. There's like 4,000 to 5,000 people there. So, some of these events are starting to get bigger. So I think live events are coming, but we did a virtual event. We brought people from one of our Facebook groups, Sales Revolution, that has about 10,000 salespeople and leaders, executives in it, business owners. And we said, hey, we're going to have this masterclass, 3-day masterclass. And about almost 1,000 of them joined that. And, probably at least 400 to 500 of those actually attended live. It was free. So you're going to have less that attend. But what were your thoughts about the event? What did you take away from it?
So I thought it was really good. It was the first event that me personally that I kind of hosted. So, a lot of interesting preparation and things that I'd never done before, which I thought was really fun and, a really good challenge. The cool thing that I was the breadth of industry that was there. There was no one industry. I think a lot of coaches get stuck in the hole of just kind of going for one particular niche. Right. We had coaching and consulting industry. We had medical device sales, water filtration, alarm systems, solar, manufacturing. We had insurance, real estate. Yeah, we had a little bit of everything because I think the fundamentals of selling are fairly ubiquitous across different platforms.
Well, if you have the right skills, right? We see a lot of salespeople that are not trained by us, and that let's say they sell insurance and they do decent at that. Let's say they make low 6 figures, and they're like, I want to go and sell cars, or I'm going to go be a real estate agent, and then they just suck. And it's like they come back with their tail between their legs, because they don't really understand how to sell, if that makes sense. They don't understand the structure of, what problems do my prospects have in the new industry that I am in? How does my solution solve those? And what questions do I need to ask to help them find problems I didn't think they had, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that we highlighted was just a lot of the bad habits that people have been passed down. Because most sales companies, and if you're a business owner or even a sales manager, if you're a sales guy, listen to this, it's like most of the sales training is just product knowledge.
Well, they think it's not product knowledge, but it's like a few questions and then product dump.
Yeah. And so that's just not the art of persuasion.
Yeah.
It's sort of like teaching someone how to paint, and all you do is go over different types of paint.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about 7th Levels, we train really every industry. I mean, we train hundreds of different industries at this point. It's all over. And, masterclass was good. I think it helped a lot. We brought in a couple hundred clients from it. They came into our NEPQ, 2.0 sales training. That's kind of like where salespeople start at with our training. It's like 11-hour training course and all the.
We actually push people to start there. I was getting a lot of messages saying, should I go this one? I go, mate, start at day one. Just start there, and then we can have a conversation in 6 to 8 weeks once you've had a chance to absorb the basics, and we can build on it like a foundation,
Yeah, 100%. So we brought on a couple hundred clients from that event. About 50% of the people, the audience, came into our paid training programs. And, the cool thing about that is you have to really be careful with whatever you do out there. Like if you're a business owner, especially, or like even if you're a salesperson, you have to be careful on who you take advice from, like who you're learning from. And let me give you a point case this. So these type of like virtual master classes, or let's say that if you train on stage, they call that sell from the stage. Okay. There's all these gurus out there that are like, oh, you got to say this and you got to walk to this way when you're bringing up the price. And if you're over on this side of the stage, they're not going to buy, and like all this crazy stuff. And I remember taking some of these courses and I'm like, interesting. That's so weird. Like, it doesn't make any sense psychologically. My background is, behavioral science, human psychology. And I'm like, that flies flat against everything I've learned in persuasion and selling, what he's telling me. And I remember I did a live event 3 or 4 months before COVID. This is before you were the CEO, or before you were even here at 7th Level, before you were, I think when you were maybe coming on a client. And I remember I took some of this guru's advice that I paid a little bit of money on, how to sell from stage. And I remember when I did it the way he did it, I put a little bit of NEPQ in there. But when I did it the way he did it, I only converted about 17, 18% into like a $2,000 program out of the audience. And I was just like, it's a little bit disappointed because I'm like, this product's the training's so good, blah, 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 blah. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stop taking advice from these people that probably have not done as much as I have in sales, not even close. Okay. Even though they said they're an expert in speaking and selling from stage, I'm not sure how much of an expert they are, And so I totally scrapped that when we went back to this masterclass and did it my way, and we converted like 53%. So, you got to be careful who you take advice from, and it's the same thing in marketing. We were talking about this the other day. We have a lot of Facebook groups. We have a lot of people that come into our Facebook groups and they're always raising their hand. Like, we want no more details. We want more options on getting into your sales training programs, not just the hors d'oeuvres you're giving us in the Facebook group and the Q&As, which are really good too. There's companies out there, there's gurus out there that teach you how to monetize your Facebook group. We bought some of their courses and we've applied some of the things they've said.
Not small amounts of money too, 30, 50.
Yeah. I mean, these aren't small amounts of money. They're 30, 50 grand. And I know we bought from two of the biggest people in that space, 30, 40, 50 grand programs that teach you how to monetize your Facebook groups. And we've applied probably, 30, 40, 50% of what they said. But a lot of it, we're just like, that's not going to work for us. Like, hey, only go live in your group once a week. You want to be like hands off, like only go live. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to work for salespeople. I think they want more nuggets. I think they want to know it actually works and not just going live talking about motivation or something. And so
we want to help them. That Facebook group is designed to help people get better at sales.
Yeah.
So that's the first and foremost that it comes down to. Like, we want people to get better. We want to give them gold nuggets. And listen, if they choose to take our training, then that's fantastic.
Yeah. I've seen testimonials in there by people who aren't even in our paid training programs yet. They're just getting nuggets that we're giving away in the group and Q&As. And like Tuesdays, I come in for a 30-minute training. Like, wow, I tried that and I made 3 extra sales last week. And they're not even in our sales training yet. They're just going off some like golden nuggets. Okay. And so, you be careful you take your advice from, because I know these gurus, like in the last 3 or 4 months, as we've really monetized our Facebook groups and learned the right way to do that, we're more than doubling the gurus that focus on Facebook groups. We're more than doubling their sales, what they're doing in their groups. And the cool thing is their Facebook groups are 3 to 4 to 5 times bigger. So how is that even possible? So you're going to be careful on who you take all of your advice. Don't like buy into it hook, line, and sinker sometimes. Like, you can take some of it away and help you. But if you take all of it, depending on your space, especially in marketing and stuff, you got to be very careful. Because I know when I first started 7th Level, I would like buy these training programs that would teach you how to market or do this. And I would like take hook, line, and sinker, and it really wouldn't work for our space. And so as we've conformed and learned what we know in sales and persuasion into that, that's when we started to scale. So you got to be careful.
Yeah. I think also like your definition, our definition of what's working is probably different, because we know what's capable given the efficacy of our sales.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of guys, they'd be happy if they're closing at 15%. Whereas like, I'd probably fire someone if they were closing at 15%.
We would fire everybody if they were only closing at 15%.
And so like, I think given that's our skill set, our metrics are skewed. And because we have an understanding of, I guess, a sales process, which is one of the things that we do for a lot of our corporate clients. It's like, let's not just have a look at what you're saying. Let's have a look at the journey that the prospect's going through from the moment they become a lead, because that will affect the effectiveness of your sales. Like if it's a terrible process with a great script, you'll be okay. If it's a great process with a bad script, you might be okay as well. But if you have a great process and a great script, and your salespeople are trained in an effective way, then you have a really, really well-oiled front-end machine that,
Yeah.
means that you can
100%.
onboard 250 clients in a matter of days.
Like 3 days. Yeah. And when Matt, I want to specify everybody, because everybody's, listening to the shows, different industries. When he says script, he's meaning like sales structure. He's not meaning like telemarketing script, like reading off the script.
Yeah.
Paragraph. I know some people are like script. No, sales structure. So all the way from connecting questions that take the focus off you, puts it on them, all the way to, situation questions, to problem awareness, to solution awareness, consequence questions, all the way to commitment questions, getting the prospect to close himself. That's on a 1 call, 2 call, 3 or 4 call, or more complex selling environment, B2B. We train all sorts of companies and organizations.
You did a live today with Raj, who's
I did. Yeah. What were your thoughts?
Very successful.
Watch me interview one of our clients. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a B2B sales guy, does like larger enterprise deals. He makes 1.5, maybe $1.8 million a year in commission, doing a lot of SaaS and a few other companies. And he's fully adopted our methodologies, and just a great dude to work with.
He is. We talked about a deal that, more than doubled his income here for 2021, what he normally makes. He's going to make close to probably 3 million this year. But we talked about a deal that he's in our advanced inner circle that we helped him close, 102 million acquisition deal. And so they brought him in there because the deal was going south. So they brought in a guy to like go back and forth between the two parties to like help them bring together. And there was all these NEPQ questions that we taught him in Inner Circle. And the cool thing about him is he's over in Dubai. So obviously he's going through our virtual training courses, but during our live training calls that we have for Inner Circle members, which are like Monday through Thursday, he's pretty much asleep. I mean, it's like 3 a.m. over in Dubai, right? So he's not making most of those. He's pretty much getting on all the replays. So I don't talk to him that much because he's just on the replays, right? And he was like, man, I took that from the first 2 replays. He's like, I took this question and this question and this question when it went in south. Here's how I brought him back in with this question and made them realize you trying to negotiate them down. He didn't say this, but the questions he asked got him to think this. You trying to negotiate them down is going to cause you to, lose the revenue that's going to make you, not a $700 million company like you are now, but a $1.3 billion company. So is it worth, paying $2 or $3 extra million over making an extra, 500 million in revenue the next year? He got them to realize the consequences if they didn't do anything and follow through with that deal. And he made like a $1.2 million commission off that over like a 3-meeting set because they had to bring somebody in to bridge that group back together. And he's like, dude, I would not have made that without NEPQ. What you taught us. He's like, I would have lost $1.4 million if I did not know that.
They didn't pay him for the 3 calls. They paid him for the ability to do what he could do on those 3 calls. So he was adequately paid for the skill set that he provided in that terms. And that's why salespeople can make a lot of money. It's not because you're not being paid for the time, you're being paid for the skill set.
Skill level.
And there's a great quote, which is, a salesperson is the only person that will never have to ask for a raise because their income is directly related to their skill set.
It's 100%. It's just like an NBA basketball player. It's the same thing. Their income is directly related to their skill set, right? LeBron James gets paid a lot of money because he can do things that most NBA players can't, right? Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all the greats, Tom Brady, skill set determines how much he gets paid. Patrick Mahomes. It's all the same thing in sales and business and athletics, all of that. Your skill sets determine where you get paid.
I don't know if Patrick Mahomes is a good example of that though, man. His record isn't great.
I mean, he's won Super Bowl in 3 years. That's freaking awesome.
I don't know, man.
He's already got MVP. What are you talking? Hey, man, that's my boy here in Missouri.
I know. I'm just messing with you.
That's my boy, man. I'm in a charity with that dude. That's my boy. Him and Trevor Kelsey, the tight end, has big, huge charity here in Missouri that I just
missed the days of Tony Gonzalez, man.
Tony was good. Tony's a legend, right? But Travis Kelsey, man, I think he's going to break his records. As long as he doesn't break his leg this year, he's probably going to break his records here in the next 3 or 4 years. He's a stud. So I think that's important. The way you said that there, I want everybody to listen, like your skill set. How did you say that? Your skill set determines your income, right?
Yeah, well, basically, a salesperson is the only person that never has to ask for a raise because your income is directly related to your skill set.
It's so true.
So if you want to learn more, earn more. That's basically what it is. And it's not just learning, but it's the application. It is funny, right? I think one of the things that we were trying to get people to do in the mastermind that we ran was not only impart skills, but was also become a sales athlete, become a sales professional.
Yeah.
Right? What would Jeremy do if he was in your city? What would Kobe Bryant do? If Kobe Bryant got to go back and go to high school, how would that guy act now? Because that's where you're at. If you're at the beginning of your sales career, the infancy of where your income wants to be, no matter how long you've been doing it, You need to take the necessary steps required to put yourself in a position to where you can succeed.
Exactly. Like our good friend Bradley, one of our clients taking over his company's sales, says, Tuesdays a day we take over his sales. That's awesome. I love that. But he always says, is training something you did, or is training something you do? Well, it's the same thing in athletics and business and sales. I get so frustrated when I read, I was reading an article in Forbes 3 or 4 months ago, and it talked about the average salesperson in North America, which is probably very similar in Australia and the United Kingdom and everywhere in Europe and everywhere in the civilized world, South America, Africa, everywhere, Asia. The average salesperson in North America spends less than like $70 on sales training a year. And then they wonder why they're not making as much money as they want. I mean, it's like you're not putting any time into developing your skills. And you have to be careful who you learn from. It's just like Michael Jordan. He says, you're not going to be a great basketball player, even if you take 1,000 jump shots a day from the age of 5. If you were taught the wrong technique by the coach, if your technique is off, you're still not going to be great at basketball. Like, you have to learn the right skill sets and the right techniques. And we talk about that a lot in our training. You have to learn the skill sets and techniques and the questions that work with human behavior rather than work against it. I was on advanced inner circle training call with some of our advanced clients today. And we talked about, every part of the sale from the opening, whether it's in person, whether it's door to door, whether it's in a boardroom meeting with the company, whether it's over Zoom or Skype or on the phone, cold calling, it doesn't matter. Every part of that sales conversation is you continually having to disarm the prospect to get them to keep wanting to engage and actually wanting to open up to you. And if you don't have those skills to do that, you'll typically eventually in that conversation somewhere trigger sales resistance, actually triggers more objections and makes it much harder for you to actually close that deal. So every part of the sales process, whether it's a 1 call close, whether it's a 2 call close or a 3 or 4 call close, or even a B2B complex selling environment that might take 6 to 9 months, every part of that sales conversation or process is all about disarming the prospect where they want to engage and keep opening up to you. And if you don't know those skills, you're literally just throwing $100 bills out of your pocket as you walk down the street every day.
We had them do an exercise where day 2 was
tell us about that. That was awesome.
Yeah, day 2 was all about objection handling. So it was like, how do we diffuse? I don't want to say objection handling, but I want to say objection diffusing.
Objection prevention.
Prevention, right? And so it's like, these are the skills, these are the word tracks, these are the things that you're trying to think of when you're, the classic, and this is within any industry, is budgetary constraints or partner constraints, whether it be boardroom, whether it be wife, whether it be business partner, right? Doesn't really matter. And then you've got more of like the lack of trust, can you send me some references? Can I get a guarantee? All these kind of trust issue things, right? And so these are sort of your really common things. So we want to have ways to pre-handle them. We want to have ways to diffuse them when and if they do come up. Yeah. And so we had people say, okay, well, if you're a sales guy, because if you're like a business owner listening to this, it's like the more money that your sales guys make, the more money that they're leaving on the table personally, there's a 10x in your pocket, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So, and we were like, okay, if you had the skills that we taught you today, and I want you to have a look at all the deals you didn't close over the last 12 months, and I want you to tell us in a video how much revenue, how much income you've lost out on over the last 12 months. And the average answer was more than $200,000.
That's what they were saying. After we taught them like all those skills, like how do you respond when they say, can you send me more information right at the beginning of the call? What do you do if they say at the beginning of the call, can you call me back later? I'm busy. What do you do if they say, can you send me more references? Can you just send me a quote? Can you just send me a proposal? We don't have the money. We don't need it. Your price is too high. It's too expensive. We need to keep shopping around. I need to think it over. I need to talk to my spouse, my business partner, my uncle who lives in a van down by the river. And so after we took them through those first 2 days of work, you had them take a poll. This was really genius. I really like the way you did this. We really helped people on there realize that here's where they are, their current state or current situation. Here's where they really wanted to be, right? Their future. Here's the income they're at now as a salesperson. Here's where they really wanted to be. What was this gap in between? All of the problems that Matt and I, through the first couple of 2 days of that masterclass, because it was like an hour and a half masterclass each day, help them see this gap of where they were in their skill sets compared to where they could be and how much money they were losing in between. And you're right. When we did that survey, we asked them like, how much do you get paid per sale? So let's say it's $500 or $1,000. There's some B2B guys in there that might be $50,000 a deal or $10,000 or whatever it was. And we asked them to add it up how many sales they thought they were losing on a weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly, and yearly. And to put that in the poll, and you're right, it was like over 65, 70% of them said that they were losing close to 200,000 a year in commissions because they hadn't learned those skills. And I think even 10% were saying like, we're losing
500.
30 or 40 grand a year. Like even on the low end, the guys that thought they knew everything about sales, were even still saying like, hey, we're losing probably 30 or 40 grand a year in commissions. Then we had some people who were like, hey, I'm losing $500,000 a year. It was all over the place, but it helped them see that by the end of the third day, when we made that offer, that we can help solve that problem for you by training you in our virtual training courses and our group training and those type of things. That's why we had over 50% of the people get involved and pay for those programs, because they realized here's where they were, here's where they wanted to be. And there was this massive gap in their mind because of the questions we asked them and the training, the little golden nuggets we gave them, like blew their minds out of the water, where they're just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know. You don't know what you don't know. And they realized that there's no way they're ever going to get here by selling the same way they always have. And so it was like they were throwing money at us trying to get to the training. Remember, because we gave them like 3 days.
It was crazy. The amount of messages I was getting. Hey, can you can I do a deposit? I'm trying to put funds together. Can you, like, man, I was getting hundreds of messages.
Throwing money at us, and we shut it down, midnight Sunday, the last day we offered that Thursday night at like 5 p.m. Eastern. And, we made one more offer on Friday and we said, you've got 48 hours. And that was it. We're men of our word, 12:01 Pacific Standard Time. You click on the website and it was like, wah, wah, like it's not there, The website offer was gone because we gave them a 50% discount. And people are like, oh, can I please get the discount? We're like, no, you didn't take action. Sorry. You have to keep selling the way you are, or get into our programs at the regular pricing, because in 2 months from now, that's going to look like pennies to you compared to the amount of commissions you're making. So who cares, and still people are doing that today, they're still getting in. So this is what we train companies to do. I think this is why we have so much duplication in all these industries where, they'll be like, oh my gosh, in the last 4 months, we've increased our sales by 105%. And I'm like, no, that's not really that great. I mean, I guess you doubled your sales. Like, what are you missing? What's wrong? That's what I think. I remember we had one company that's like, yeah, like we're doing awesome. Like, the first quarter after your training, we're up by like 43%. And I'm like, I think you guys don't understand the training then. Like, that's not very good. They're like, wow, this is awesome. I'm like, that actually sucks. Like, you got to be, no, that's what I'm seriously. I was thinking that in my mind. I mean, I'll tell you a story. You weren't here yet, but when we started 7 Level 3 years ago, first corporate client was Google AdWords, trained 4 divisions, and they came back and did an audit after the first 90 days of their uplift in sales. And it came back as a 244% increase. There was like one of the product lines that was only like a 43%. And then there was one that was like 480%. And then there was like 165%. And then there was like 350, but it averaged like 244% returns between the 4 divisions. And I remember when they came back with those numbers, they're like, oh, this can't be true. And so they audited it like 2 more times. And they're like, yeah, this is like true. Like, this is crazy. We've made, like $70 more million in the last quarter in these 3 divisions. But I looked at it when they came back with 244%. I'm like, I honestly was hoping for like 500 or 600%. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's really good, but I think your salespeople are they're not understanding like this part of the training. And they're like, 244%. Are you crazy? We've never had more than a 10% uplift from a sales training.
I think the thing is as well, it's like, if you're, you're a business owner, you're listening to this, it's like, yeah, that's great. Right. And those increased sales are fantastic. But the true, like the reduction in administrative burden on the business, when you have happy and successful salespeople, is like borderline immeasurable. The lack of recruiting, the onboarding, like you can reduce your admin down if you're keeping people. Like, you don't need a large staff onboarding division if you're holding people effectively.
Well,
and
Google,
so like
just in those 4 divisions, Google was losing like somewhere up towards 40% about every 4 months that they were having to replace. Right.
Yeah. Which is classic.
It's a lot
call
of
center stuff. It's call center.
Yeah, it's call center, but they were losing 40%. That was one thing they did in the beginning when I met in the boardroom with the people in charge of those divisions. They're like, well, we don't have the budget for this. We have to wait till next year, because it was like September 1st, right after Labor Day weekend. They're like, we really want to do this. We're sold, but we've already spent all the training budget for this year. We have to wait till the next year, send us everything. And we're going to wire the funds January 15th. Now, am I going to take that? No. So I'm asking a few more questions, blah, blah, blah. And like 18, 20 minutes later, they're realizing that they're losing like literally like $10 million a month, probably in lost sales. And That's not even counting the millions of dollars they were losing on a monthly basis, having to go out and hire and onboard and train new salespeople with all the office staff. And they realized like, hey, if we wait 5 months, we're going to lose about $60 million more dollars. Or we can wire this kid $68,000 for 3 days to fix all that. But what do you think they did? They picked up the phone, they called some dude, and I don't know who it was, human resources, and they moved the money and it was in the account the next day. But that's because I knew the right questions to ask to get them to realize how much money they were going to lose, which is more risky, losing $63 million in the next 5 months or getting funding for $68,000 from a different department. Well, to them, it was a lot more risky to keep losing millions of dollars every month than pay like a small penny. I mean, if I would have had 2% of the gain we got from them, I'd already be retired. There you go.
I don't think you would have retired.
No, probably not. You know me.
I know how much money you made. If you haven't retired yet, you're not going to retire anytime soon.
I know. That's right. I know. So as we wrap up, it's just about learning from the right people, learning the right skills, especially when we were talking about certain things that you learn from the gurus. You got to be careful sometimes because sometimes the gurus just haven't been in the game for a while. They just haven't been in the game and things change. And sometimes they just don't change with it. They're too unflexible with what they do. One great thing about, I think, NEPQ and what we do is we're always flexible. Like we're always learning other things that we can incorporate to make it better than it is today. Like today, even 3 months from now, it's better. A year from now, better than it is now.
We're basically the Tesla of sales training. We're constantly updating.
Yeah. And we're constantly putting new content in our virtual training courses. We just added another 5 hours more.
And even like when we get some industry specific stuff, we'll add in a little bit of industry specific because there are always tiny little nuances that maybe you get in each industry or little tips and tricks. Like with my main industry, coaching, consulting, it's a little bit of tips and tricks that we can do in order to sell that more effectively. We have people like Joseph Roberry who are super successful. So we have interviews with him and we're always bringing him on to talk about the success he's had using our systems and the small little tweaks and tips that he's used, making $100,000 a month door to door. Yeah. It's really, really interesting. It's fun. It's been really great to see all the clients and businesses that we work with be less stressed about sales.
Way less stressed about sales. I mean, like I said, we even had that one company is like, we're up by 43%. And they were just like so happy after 3 months. And I'm like, I don't think your salespeople are going through the material. Like, that's not that good. And they're like, what? Yeah. They're like, we don't want to change anything. We just want to stay there. I'm like, literally, like if we do this, this, and this, and like we write out your sales structure and tie an NEPQ to what you're selling, you'll be at 120% this time next year. They're like, I don't know, 43% is really good for us. I'm just like, okay, you stay at 43%. Whatever you want to do.
It's
fine. I'm okay. We can help you get to 120%, or you can stay at 43%. It's all right. If you've not joined the Facebook group yet, there's a link on here, Sales Revolution. We've talked a little bit about today. We have about 10,000 business owners, entrepreneurs, business leaders, sales professionals in there. They're all just trying to get better, all learning skills. We go live in there 3 to 5 times a week with different trainings, different Q&As, different interviews with other clients and companies and their sales processes. We just give. So if you want to join, learn those type of skills, there's a link here, Sales Revolution. We'll see you on the inside when you join. You fill out a 2 or 3 question survey so we know what industry you're in, what products and services you sell. Check your messenger on Facebook, and we DM you a free 40-minute training on objection prevention. What questions to ask your prospect during the conversation that helps you prevent most of the objections from even happening in their mind. It's like Ninja Jedi stuff. Okay. So we send that to you for free. Check your messenger when you join the Facebook group. Matt, thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed these, here's another you can watch right over here. Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're going to help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.